Hello all, welcome to the channel. I'm Dr. Sheba, Assistant Professor from Department of BCom CA, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science. Now let's see about Introduction to PL SQL in Database Management System. We all must have used the SQL structure query language to create a database. Now let's see the extended version of the SQL language, PL SQL, the procedural language extension to the SQL, and how it works. PL SQL is a blocks structure language that enables developers to combine the power of SQL with procedural statements. All the statements of the block are passed to Oracle engine all at once, which increases in the processing speed and decreases the traffic. PLSQL includes procedural language elements like conditions and loops. It also allows the declaration of constants and variables, procedures and functions, types and variables of those types, and the triggers. It can support array and handle exemptions also during the runtime errors. The PL SQL is the extended and more improved version of SQL that can take statements and also show the runtime errors. Now let's see about the features of PL SQL. PL SQL is basically a procedural language. It has procedures, it has steps, it has comments, and it has a structure, which provides the functionality of decision making, iteration, and many more features of the procedural programming languages. PLSQL can execute a number of queries in one block using single command. One can create a PLSQL unit such as procedures, functions, packages, triggers, and types which are used or stored in the database for use by applications. Thus, PLSQL provides a feature to handle the exception which occurs in PLSQL block known as exception handling block. Applications written in PLSQL are portable to computer hardware or operating system where Oracle is operational. PLSQL offers extensive error checking, so it will be easy for any program to rectify and identify the errors easily. As we have discussed, PLSQL is a more improved version of SQL. Now let's see what are the disadvantages of SQL that can be rectified using the use of PLSQL. SQL doesn't provide the programmers with the technique of condition checking, looping, or branching. SQL statements are passed to Oracle engine one at a time, which increases traffic and decreases the speed, and it also in turn delays the execution of the program that we have typed. SQL has no facility of error checking during manipulation of data. Let's see the differences between SQL and PLSQL. SQL is a single query that is used to perform DML and DDL operations. This is the basic operations in SQL language, while PLSQL is a block of codes that is used to write the entire program blocks, procedures, and functions, etc. So that means that SQL is the simplest form of the language which can execute minimal operations, while PLSQL can create a huge program blocks at the simple operation. SQL is declarative that defines what needs to be done rather than how things need to be done, while PLSQL is procedural that defines how the things need to be done. Next, SQL executes as a single statement while PLSQL executes as a whole block. The whole set of programs can be stored inside one single block under one operation. Next, SQL mainly is used to manipulate data, while PL SQL is used to create an applications. Next, SQL cannot contain PL SQL code in it, while PL SQL is an extension of SQL, so it can contain SQL inside it. Let's see the structure of PL SQL block. A PL SQL extends SQL by adding constructs found in the procedural languages, resulting in a structural language that is more powerful than SQL. The basic unit is PL SQL is a block. We call it as a block from which we create multiple declaration and sentences in a chronological way. All PL SQL programs are made up of blocks which can be nested within each other. As you can see from the below diagram, a PL SQL blocks will contain four main branches. The first one is the declaration, second one is the beginning, third one is the exception, and we can end it with the end attribute. Now let's see the members of the block in detail. Typically, each block performs a logical action in the program. A block has the following structure. Declare section starts with the declare keyword in which variables, constants, records as cursors can be declared which stores the data temporarily. It basically consists definition of PLSQL identifiers. This part of the code is optional. So this is the starting part of the code on which we can declare for which this block is being created. The next is the execution section that starts with the begin and ends with the end keyword. This is the mandatory section and cannot be skipped. And here the program logic is written to perform any task like loops and conditional statements. It supports all DML commands that is under the normal SQL programs and DDL commands and SQL plus built-in functions as well. So this is the main part of the PL SQL block. The next is the exception section which starts with the exception keyword. This section is optional which contains statements that are executed when a run error occurs. So when a runtime error occurs, the exception word appears below which you can see what are the errors that has happened and we can easily rectify it and save it inside the block. That is all about the introduction about PL SQL. Thank you for listening.